Hello, welcome again. I'm Timmie,
And I'm Jeanette.
and you are invited to our conversation. We do this weekly, at least weekly, usually. And it tends to elevate our brains and make our lives a little bit better. So we are inviting you along for the ride, and hopefully it'll help you. While Jeanette is picking the topic out of our wisdom owl today, I wanted to tell you something. We're in our fourth episode, and we haven't really talked a little about this. Jeanette and I met I don't around 2005 is when we first met. I don't know if you remember this. I think you remember this, but you're thinking, wait a second. So 2005, I moved here from Las Vegas, and I was looking in the Weezer paper, which is like 4 pages. We're in a small town, and I saw this coaching group that was going to be at in town, and I thought, oh, that's right up my alley. So I went and met Jeanette for the first time. That's not when we started hanging out, but that's when I met her for the first time. And there was a group of women, me and Jeanette was really trying hard to elevate the conversation, but every woman there, all they wanted to do was kvetch. They were just how bad life was. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And I remember her and I both were trying to elevate, and I had just met her, and I just thought it was hilarious that that's how we first met. And then about 6 years later is when we full on, like, I met her again through circumstances, and we became best friends, and we were like at each other's house every night. And it just kind of makes me laugh that that's where our beginnings was with a conversation that we were trying to uplift, and here we are now having conversations that actually are uplifting, and we're not trying to struggle with helping other people or keeping the conversation from going down. We tend to stay pretty up, so it's kind of nice. So what topic did you pick today?
Okay, this is interesting, especially after our last conversation. Self-talk. Would you speak to a child the same way you speak to yourself? So we're continuing on with some inner child.
Self-talk. Would you speak to a child the same? Would you speak to yourself the way you would a child? Probably not for most of us.
And well, I can say I would hope not.
Yes.
But I bet I do. I mean,
Yes.
With our inner adult and inner child, I bet I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is about self-talk is we may be aware of some of it, but how much of our self-talk is automatic that we're not even paying attention to? Mm-hmm. We pass a mirror, and there's a thought that floats through our brain that we're not even aware of, and it's mean. It's very mean. So not only is it the thoughts and the self-talk that we're aware of, but I want to go deeper. Like the self-awareness, what does it take to continue being self-aware? I guess it's just that continuous monitoring of what am I thinking at this moment? Because sometimes we're on automatic pilot and we're not even paying attention to the thoughts that are flowing through our brain. Right. And if we start getting in the habit of self-awareness, one of the practices is to start with is, every hour or every time you go into the bathroom or every time there's some sort of cue, what am I thinking right now? Right. It might not be so pleasant, but as you become more aware of it, you become your own inner adult, and we start saying nicer things. I've even caught myself, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've caught myself, like, I'll think something is like, wow, that was not very nice.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that to myself to kind of disrupt that automatic self-talk that is not beneficial, not supportive at all, not loving, not gentle, not kind. Because I will actually say that to myself. Ooh, that was not very nice. And then I'll turn it around and say something else.
Nice. Yeah. It also leads me to think that sometimes in our unawareness of our self-talk, of our own self-talk, we can, I think for me, I believe that in reflection, what I think about other people,
Mm.
I can be assured is the talk that I'm having with myself about myself internally, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm unaware of it in some fashion, life lets me know what it
Mm-hmm.
is if I listen to how I talk about other people and what I
Mm-hmm.
say and what bothers me and what really sets me off or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. I suspicion that our self-talk is what we say about other people and think about other people also,
Mm-hmm.
which is again not so nice.
Well, I have so one of the techniques that can be done to start becoming aware of your self-talk is name your voices.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I have Judgy
Basically.
Judge Juderson. And I'm like, woo, Judgy Judge Juderson is out and about today. Or Anxious Annie, the thoughts. Think of like Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and how he's anxious. That's my Anxious Annie. I could call it Piglet, but mine's Anxious Annie. Um, so if you can name your inner, the inner talk voices, sometimes that does help you become more familiar with it and be self-aware. But what's nice about it is it makes it playful,
Oh, true.
because this work does not have to be serious.
Right.
We can play and have fun with it. So,
It's true. Yeah, I've never done that before. That's cute.
oh,
Yeah. I think all the time. I wish self-development could be more
mm,
fun. That we had
it
more
can.
fun
It
tools. Yeah,
can.
exactly.
Yes, yes, it can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we become more aware? Are there more tools that we can become more aware of our self-talk? I mean, what are some of the things that you use for that one?
I I think for me is just really listening and paying self-awareness,
Right.
just self-awareness. Think about how easy it is. I was listening to, I don't know what I was listening to, but I was listening to an audiobook or a podcast or a YouTube video, and how it was a health podcast. And it was how at night when you go to sleep, you go and lay down, and your all thoughts are all crazy because we had all these distractions throughout the day.
Oh, right.
I mean, we had distractions of work, cleaning the kitchen, taking care of the dogs, all these distractions. But at night, you're sitting there and you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and there's no distractions except laying there going to bed.
Yeah, you're a captive audience.
Yes, to thoughts, to your
That's
thoughts, to
right.
your self-talk.
Your own self. That's
So self-awareness is something that you have to do during the day while you're wide awake, bringing yourself back to the moment. Let me feel my butt on this chair. Let me feel my legs crisscrossed right now. Let me feel my hands on my jeans and what that feels like. As the more you bring yourself back to the moment, then you're going to hear your thoughts. You're going to start paying attention to those thoughts. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And some people get really resistant there because I know being, practicing meditation for as long as I have and talking to people about meditation, and people will tell me, I can't meditate because the second I sit down to meditate, that I cannot stop the thoughts in my head. They just go 100 miles an hour. And really, I mean, it kind of makes me feel bad in the sense of meditation isn't about a quiet mind, especially at first.
Mm-hmm.
The development of the practice is about quieting the mind, but initially it's that you are a captive audience. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
second you sit down and you just focus inwardly, you hear what you're hearing is not that your thoughts aren't stopping, it's what you sound like all day long
They're
that
sound
you're
loops.
just not aware of.
Yep, they're
Yeah.
sound loops because I mean, think about it. What do they say? A broken record. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we think the same thoughts over and over and over about ourselves. That's how we expand too, is by being aware of the type of conversations we're having in our head. If we change those conversations, we change.
Right,
There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We do.
right,
But back to the meditation thing is if you don't like meditation, you can still just stop
right, right.
periodically throughout the day.
Yeah.
But the meditation is like consciously sitting in the uncomfortable of the thoughts that are streaming by, which is what happens to most people when they lay down to go to bed at night. So it's almost like they're forced meditating, but they don't even realize it,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they're like you said, taking away the distraction. Anytime you take away the distraction,
Mhm.
you can hear your voice. And if people want to become aware of their self-talk, but then they get those moments where they're not distracted and they don't want to hear that sound, it's like, okay, that's the gap. If it's too much in your mind when you're not distracted, think about what it's doing to your life, to
To your
your psyche,
body.
to your emotions, to your body,
Mm-hmm.
to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where unfortunately the party starts,
Yes.
is not becoming comfortable there, but just being aware that that's how noisy it is.
Mm-hmm.
And allowing, okay, I didn't know it was that noisy in here. Let me take little gulps of this space. We can't take it all at once. You're not going to take it for an hour straight,
Right.
because you might lose your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But take it in small chunks and allow yourself to just recognize that it's noisy in there.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably for everybody.
We
They
have
say monks, they don't even allow monks to meditate for years
because of all that's there.
because of what's there. What they teach them first is to do repetitive work, because when they
Ah.
do repetitive work, they actually train themselves to stop thinking during the time that they are active.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just sit and meditate at all.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense because I meditation. I just don't do
right,
meditation.
right.
But I do a lot of self-aware, which is meditation is bringing your
Absolutely.
awareness back to yourself. So I do it more I just do it in a different way where it's periodically I check in with myself. I check in with myself. I check in with myself. Um, you were saying something about the monks. Um, I've heard two things. We have 6,000 thoughts going through our brain, and I've heard 60,000. I don't know which is right. I wrote a paper on one that was a study that was based out of Canada, but I've also heard more. Think about all that is in our mind. And it's kind of like just letting this herd of thoughts run wild. And the meditation helps bring it back, and self-awareness, just checking in with yourself periodically. The other thing I think is that can be helpful. So you have meditation, checking back in with yourself, but consciously choosing what you're telling yourself about yourself.
Right.
Like, how do I want to talk to myself today? What are some things I want to talk to myself about today? I really love you. You're doing an awesome job. You got out of bed. Woo! Sometimes that's amazing.
That's true.
Sometimes it is
That's true.
amazing.
Yeah.
But, I guess I could move in a different direction and move in a different angle is how do I want to feel about myself today? Well, I want to feel that I'm loved. I want to feel loved. I want to love myself today. So, what are the things I'm going to say to myself? What would I say to somebody who I loved? Let me start. So, we not only can be self-aware, but we can also consciously choose what we want to say to ourselves and practice it.
Right.
And at first, it may not be very comfortable, but that's taking our power back rather than, there's all these angles we can befriend the inner talk, if that makes any sense.
And that leads me to think also befriending emotions in general.
Yeah.
Because one of the main things that I find for myself that I've that I've terrorized myself about are the emotions.
Mm.
You know, when this emotion shows up, or when that emotion shows up, when this emotion is not there, like maybe joy isn't there, or, you know, I'm a mom, so sometimes you love your kids to no end, and at
Mhm.
other times you don't. You just don't. And you know, how horrible of a person do you have to be to look at your child and think, I really don't like you right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of awful.
So
So
that emotion of,
yeah, to go through your life, and you almost, for me, I know I've terrorized myself about the emotions in general. So again, that allowing the emotions, befriending the emotions, as well as befriending the talk that we have about our emotions, you
hmm
know, that in and of itself is huge.
yeah, well, like when I'm like Judge Juderson, when I'm paying attention to that, it's called metacognition. When you're aware of the thoughts that you're having, you're like thinking about the thoughts you're having. It's almost like you're in a movie theater and you're sitting in the seat and you're so immersed in the movie, you forget where you're at.
Oh, definitely.
But the self-awareness of like, okay, I'm going to give my inner thought a name, or emotion. I mean, emotions, we can kind of play with that too. I don't know how yet but that would be kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Ooh. Um, but the self-awareness is pulling back from the screen and realizing I'm sitting in a chair watching this movie. That's part of befriending. Really, I think befriending it. Otherwise, it's talk about the inner child running our lives.
Right.
If I don't have that self-awareness to pull back and say, oh, I'm watching myself have this thought, those thoughts are running wild and they have the power over me. But now when I pulled back, it's like, oh, isn't that cute? Judge Juderson is just going wild. She is like judging everybody left and right. There's a distance or not really a distance, but it's I'm not so immersed in that inner talk, and it's not as effective when I've pulled back a bit.
And it would also be the illusion, you know, there's the illusion of reality, which is what you're watching on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there's the reality of the situation, which is you in the chair
Yes.
watching the screen.
Yes. Yes.
And that would help us to understand the difference,
Mm-hmm.
and help us to have some ability to affect what plays out on the screen at some
Yes.
point,
Yeah.
versus all I have the choice to do is watch what's being shown to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So immersed in it. And meditation, that's exactly what meditation is too. You're sitting and you're witnessing,
Right, right.
but you're witnessing. You're not what you're witnessing. You're witnessing these things. I don't
Right.
know if I'm making
Yes,
any sense.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the great things is, for anybody who struggles with meditation, if you are noticing how loud you are, if you're noticing that this is making you crazy, that's actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
Because that's awareness.
Yeah.
That's you
Yeah.
being aware that, oh my gosh, it's really loud in here. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, if you didn't know it was loud in there, that's problematic. You
Mm-hmm.
knowing it's loud in there is really good for you. I mean, that's a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to do anything about that. That is the just recognizing there's the illusion and there's the reality. And the illusion is this chatter that just goes
Mm-hmm.
a crazy, you know, mile a minute. And the reality is I'm sitting here behind it, or
Yes.
around it,
Yes.
or
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here separate. There is
Yes.
a
Yes.
separation.
Yes.
And I think
There's more
that's,
power in that separation.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just knowing that there's a separation.
Mm-hmm.
There's
I am not these thoughts.
yes,
I am not this
yes.
emotion.
So powerful. And
Yeah.
I think it's almost hard to explain that simplicity
Yeah.
when someone's on the beginning aspect of it, looking at it going, wow, it's just really loud. I
Yeah.
can't deal with this. But if you know it's loud in there, that's it. You're exactly where you need to be, you know?
I want to share an experience. I don't remember if I told you, but I'm the one who does not meditate. She does. I went to a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat, which is 10 days of silent. Did I tell you this? I think I told you this.
You told me some of it.
Yes.
I've heard some of these.
So two of the things, talking about things getting loud, um, there's a couple things. So we were in bunkhouses, and then we'd get up and we'd go to the meditation room like 3 times a day. We'd have to do it. But in the bunkhouse, we're not supposed to have eye contact with anybody because that's a form of communication. So it's silence, and we're not supposed to talk. And the whole time I thought I was so loud because you're brushing your teeth and you hear everything, and you move and you hear everything. Talk about, wow, I'm so loud. And the first few times I meditated in the group, the first few experiences, I had Winnie the Pooh song playing in my head. Like it would not go away. It would not go away. I think one of the most beautiful experiences I had was I walked back to the bunkhouse, and there's this beautiful field of flowers, and the bees were out. And I truly understand the composition of Flight of the Bumblebee. It was just so, it was like an orchestra.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I still think it's kind of funny that you're the one who meditates and I do not meditate anymore.
Yeah.
I do in my own way. You know, it's my own form of meditation.
Right.
You know.
Well, and I started my practice truly to save myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So there was a and I'm so grateful that I did, because I started it 2 years before everything
Yes.
else. And
Yes.
I had some
You had an
something,
anchor or
yeah,
base.
something to hold on to
Mhm.
when life went upside down, you know.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I don't know. I can't even imagine what else it
No.
would be like, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I know I did it to save myself emotionally, and then that momentum helped me when it was even more necessary. Yeah.
And I'm just assuming, but I could be wrong, but your meditation helped you with your self-talk while you were going through that a little bit, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And then too, you know, it was interesting because there was the time frame when I couldn't meditate, and I started doing
I remember
hypnosis.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
And I started doing hypnosis because I really could not keep my balance.
Yeah.
And the hypnosis is another one, you know, hypnosis is another
That's a
one that,
great way
like the
for,
Psych K, like,
yes.
yeah, those tools that actually change your wiring.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
what is
neuropathways.
Neuropathways, rebuilding neural pathways with new self-talk through hypnosis, through Psych K. Wow, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, those are all really key things. And yeah, again, even just noticing that it's loud in there and allowing it to be loud in there will change your circumstances, because the majority of our negative circumstances are because of resistance, just resistance. And we think that the resistance is out here, and we talk about it within ourselves as if it's out here, when in reality it's resistance in here. I can't handle how I feel when you do that.
Yeah.
That's what the majority of our negative everything stems from. So what would it be like if our self-talk was, I can handle this? If we just knew we could handle, and I don't mean handle it in, you know, there might be an ideal way to handle something, and there might be an absolute bomb in handling something. But I guarantee you there's a ton of room in between that we could allow ourselves to land in. And even if I fall short, just allowing myself to be falling short removes the resistance. So even that with self-talk, just,
I've got my back.
Yeah, I can handle this. And I can handle, even if I handle it badly, I can handle that too.
Yeah.
And sometimes that self-talk is incredibly valuable.
Man, we should share some of the self-talk. I'm gonna do this thing and I'm not gonna die. Look, I did it and I didn't die. You know, the things that we think, oh, I can't do that because it's just that fear that we allow to take over us. But it's like, wait a second, I did it and I'm not gonna die.
Mhm.
I'm safe. Um, I'm trying to think of some, if you have any. I can handle it.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out, and I don't have to figure it out right now. That one's been a big one for me.
right.
I allow myself to be messy in the process and not be perfect. That's another one that has my back.
Yeah,
It's okay to make mistakes. I'm allowing myself to fall flat on my face and get back up because I know moving forward, I just have to take a step. I just have to take a step. And if I fall on my face, I'm still going to be okay. I'm going to get back up. If this is, those are just some things. I don't know if that's fitting into our conversation the way,
oh, it
but
is,
yeah,
it is.
yeah, just some power thoughts that have our back.
Right. And sometimes like for me, in the circumstances of losing my son and in that grief, and first of all, prior to that moment, at any given time, if somebody had said to me, or when I even approached someone who had experienced the loss of a child, I truly felt internally that that would kill me.
Yes.
I believed that. And to go through it and then realize begrudgingly on some mornings that I had to keep waking up, And so sometimes the self-talk when it's bad was, I just have to get through the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you have to shorten it to, at this moment, I'm breathing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it can get bad to where you have to really pull back.
Yes.
The self-talk, the most that you can do is just the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And at some point, those moments start to kind of string together, and you get a little more space, and you get a little more room to think the next thing, and then it's allowing yourself to have fun and do something that's new and fresh, and there's things, and you just tell yourself, I'm here. I'm here. I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up today. I'm going to show up in this moment. I'm going to do the best I can. And sometimes that's the self-talk that we need in those moments. That's as good as I could make it be. But it's the thing that got me to the next moment and the next moment. And everyone just keeps building onto the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-talk.
So
That's the kindest that you can be to yourself in the moment.
exactly.
The kindest that you can reach for in
Absolutely.
the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. The gentlest, the
The
softest,
most loving.
whatever can make you feel
I like
the
softest.
most soothed.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in
The
that
softest.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I know for some people, it was for me. There's moments where you just think, I can't live through this. And
that's self-talk right there.
right, exactly. And let's see if we can do, a little bit more, and a little bit more, just a little bit more time. So yeah, the self-talk is definitely relative to where you are, but allowing yourself to expand upon it and making it better and better as you go and get more room in it is that's valuable too. Sometimes you can't reach all the way for,
Yeah.
it's going to be great, and
Yeah.
I'm going to do well, and sometimes you don't know how you're going to do.
Talk about who you are, speak so loudly I cannot hear what you're saying.
Right.
Jumping that far when you're feeling that level of emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would go out in public and I would think to myself before I left, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to run into anybody. and you just keep doing it and telling yourself, I'll try. I'll
Yeah,
try.
I'm willing.
I'll go out and I'll do it again. And
Mhm.
whatever happens, happens, and you live through it. And pretty soon, the great part is pretty soon you realize that you're much stronger, much more resilient, much more valuable than you ever even really thought you were anyway, just by expanding upon that just a little bit at a time.
Mhm.
And wow,
And your self-talk now is so
vastly
different.
different.
Yes.
Vastly
From
different.
I can't do this.
Mhm.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And that's how little sometimes we can make it be.
Yeah. And how
Smallest step.
powerful
Yes.
that little baby gentle step, how impactful it is.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Huge.
Very huge.
Yeah.
Okay. We went in all kinds of directions with self-talk. I hope you got something out of it and your life has been elevated by our conversation, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.